Hey y'all, it's entry number 9 of this offseason series where we discuss a different player's fantasy value each day as a group. We are another day closer to the start of the 2022 NFL season. Each day we'll drop a name, go through some positives and some concerns of their fantasy profile, and then I'll give my personal opinion at the end. Today's entry will be on Allen Robinson, wide receiver, Los Angeles Rams. We'll start with some of the positives from Allen Robinson's fantasy profile. Previous elite play. Allen Robinson has been a very good fantasy wide receiver in the past. He has had 3 seasons in his career where he's had 1,140 receiving yards or more and 6+ receiving touchdowns, including 2 of his last 3 seasons in 2019 and 2020. If he can return to form, and 2021 was just a weird outlier year, there could be massive value in drafting Allen Robinson at his current draft spot. Next up, we have to talk about the quarterback upgrade for Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson will easily be playing with the most talented quarterback in his career, in Matthew Stafford. Stafford put up an impressive stat line of 404 completions on 601 passing attempts for 4,886 passing yards and 41 passing touchdowns during the 2021 NFL season. Having a solid quarterback raises the fantasy floor and upside of Allen Robinson in 2022. The last thing that I really like about Allen Robinson's fantasy profile is that he plays in Sean McVay's wide receiver friendly offense. Sean McVay has been one of the more wide receiver friendly coaches in the league over the course of his career as an offensive coordinator or head coach, with his wide receiver room averaging 14.16 receptions on 22.02 targets for 186.78 receiving yards and 1.09 receiving touchdowns. By playing in a wide receiver friendly offense, Allen Robinson should have plenty of opportunities to be successful. Moving on to some of the concerns with Allen Robinson. To start, we gotta talk about his 2021 struggles. Allen Robinson is coming off the worst season of his NFL career, where he put up just 38 receptions on 66 targets for 410 receiving yards and 1 receiving touchdown over the course of 12 games. The next concern in Allen Robinson's fantasy profile is the competition for targets and being the number 2 wide receiver on the Rams. Allen Robinson has been the WR1 and lead target on his team nearly his entire 8-year NFL career. But this won't be the case with the Los Angeles Rams in 2022, as the team has the top wide receiver in the entire NFL from the 2021 NFL season in Cooper Kupp, who put up an insane 145 receptions on 191 targets for 1,947 receiving yards and 16 receiving touchdowns. This means that Allen Robinson's target share may not get as high as it was in his previous dominant seasons, and even other guys on the depth chart like Van Jefferson could potentially jump him on the target totem pole if Allen Robinson doesn't bounce back from his poor 2021 NFL season. The last major concern with Allen Robinson's fantasy profile is that he doesn't get many yards after the catch. Allen Robinson had just 110 yards after the catch in 2021, which ranked 90th among receivers according to Player Profiler. Even in some of his more recent dominant season, he wasn't as great in this area, as he ranked just 37th in 2019 with 239 yards after the catch, and 31st in 2020 with 295 yards after the catch, according to Player Profiler. A little bit of extra information on Allen Robinson. In 2021, Allen Robinson finished his WR94 in standard with 49 total fantasy points, 4.1 fantasy points per game, WR86 in half PPR formats with 68 total fantasy points or 5.7 fantasy points per game, and WR82 in full PPR formats with 87.0 total fantasy points, 7.3 fantasy points per game. In 2020, Allen Robinson finished as WR12 in standard with 160.9 total fantasy points or 10.1 fantasy points per game, WR12 in half PPR formats with 211.9 total fantasy points, or 13.2 fantasy points per game, and WR9 in full PPR formats with 262.9 total fantasy points, or 16.4 fantasy points per game. Red zone usage. In his 3 most recent seasons, Allen Robinson has seen 19 red zone targets in 2019, 23 red zone targets in 2020, and 8 red zone targets in 2021, according to NFL Savant. Personal opinion. Allen Robinson is currently going off the board as WR39, or about pick 95 overall, on ESPN, and WR30, about pick 92 overall, on Yahoo. At this price, he's a great player to take a shot on, since it's all upside and very little downside. The soon-to-be 29-year-old receiver is not too far removed from a top 12 fantasy finish, and just went to a team that has a WR-friendly offense and will give him the best quarterback of his career throwing him the ball. For each of these entries, we will highlight a charitable cause or foundation. For today's entry, we will talk about Allen Robinson's Within Reach Foundation, which provides educational opportunities and resources to low-income students to help put success within reach. Here's a link to that foundation. And that's all for today. If you have a player that you'd like to see covered in the video format of the A Player a Day series, drop a comment below.